My name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, what I like to do is I'm going to talk about the Patterson film and who filmed it. Now, a lot of people says, there was only two people there, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, and that, when we look at the film, which I'm going to pull up this image here, which shows you each scene from the PG film. And we see supposedly Bob Gimlin was riding horseback with the pack horse, then Roger Patterson. As I point out in my other videos, that he was taken actually from two different types of films. However, people still think, hey, Bob Gimlin filmed Roger Patterson and stuff there and everything else. But before we go any further, what I want to do is I want to play an interview that Bob Gimlin was in. And in this interview, he, well, you'll find out what he states right here. Now listen.
Who made the decision, Bob, who was going to be the cameraman that day? Did Roger always have the camera, or was that?
Well, yes, there was not a decision at all, because I didn't have anything to do with cameras. Basically, I was the horse person there. Roger was riding his horse, but I was just there to help Roger, whatever needed to be done. And my point was, or the reason that I was down there is Roger asked me to take him down there, and I had the equipment to take him down there with the truck and the means to get him down there. And so Roger had the camera with him all the time. I never carried the camera ever, because I don't even take pictures to this day with a camera. So, and I know very little bit about cameras. So consequently, Roger had this camera, I assume, quite a while before he went down there.
As you heard out of Bob Gimlin's own mouth, that he didn't have the camera, that Roger had the camera with him the whole time, and he don't even know how to work a camera. This even stunned the guy that was giving the interview, because he's like, after he made this statement, the guy didn't know what else to ask, because it's like, hey, now wait a minute, I guess he's having second thoughts on, well, who filmed Roger when you guys was at Bluff Creek. But anyway, after I heard this is like more evidence just being piled on top of other evidence. When I was viewing the film, okay, I was looking at the subject, in each one of the frames and stuff. Come to find out that Bob Gimlin is not even seen in the PG film, except for when I show you that when he was hiding behind the brush. Other than that, when it comes to horseback, the guy on a horseback actually was not Bob Gimlin. It is actually Roger Patterson. Now, when I was viewing this film, okay, as you see here is Roger Patterson, which I'll zoom in. This is Roger Patterson on this horse here. This horse that he's on right here is also the same horse that he's on in this film here as well, in the PG film. This is the same horse. Now, as you notice, the hat is even the same. The only thing's different is the color of the shirt. Well, in this image here, this is the same color as the shirt that he has on here. This is not Bob Gimlin. This is actually Roger Patterson, because he's even wearing the hat the same way. He's on the horse that has a short tail. And even in the PG film itself, right here, he's riding that same horse as well, when he has a striped shirt on. And he also has the same hat on, same riding chaps on, and his rifle's still on the right side, on this side right here, which would be on the right side of the horse. And the same saddle and all in the PG film. Same saddle, same saddlebags, same rifle, and the scabbard right next to him. All this is the same. This is not Bob Gimlin. This is actually Roger Patterson. Bob Gimlin is not even seen in a PG film. Now, as everybody know, that in my research as well, Bob Gimlin is not, whoever's seen my research or even gone over my book, knows that Roger Patterson was the only one seen in the film, which is most likely because Roger's, want to be the star of that film. And Roger wouldn't be the star of that film if it was constantly Bob Gimlin in front of the camera. So Roger Patterson made sure that he was always in front of that camera, you know, and someone else filming him. Now, what I want to point out here is, like I said, this man here on this horse is actually Roger Patterson. Now, as everybody know, there's still that speculation on when this film was made. Now, as the story goes, as they told, that they was in when John Green, Rene Dahinden, and them went down to Bluff Creek, California, down in Blue Mountains. They Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin was in Mount St. Helens at the time. Then when Roger Patterson came back, he got a phone call, and him and Bob Gimlin went to Bluff Creek area. That's when they supposedly filmed their Bigfoot. But what people don't know is, yeah, they did go to Mount St. Helens. However, it was not done in September of 1967, as they claimed. It was actually done prior to that, because even in Roger Patterson's book, which is right here, which I took an image because I have both copies, first edition, second edition, talks about him and Bob Gimlin going to Ape Canyon and Mount St. Helens area, and everything that they tell in a story that supposedly happened in 1967 was all in Roger Patterson's book from 1966. So if Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin took this trip before 1967, where did Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin gone to at the end of September, when he was in September? And, you know, by the time they came back. Okay? So this basically what I'm trying to point out here is this. With Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin taking that trip prior, a year prior or 2 years prior to when they filmed the Bigfoot, when Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin left, what they actually did was met up with John Green and them down there in the Bluff Creek area and did their filming of the Bigfoot, because Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin's already gone now. Remember, they're not in Yakima. They're supposedly at Mount St. Helens. And then when he come back, the same story that they have in Roger Patterson's book from 1966 is a story they told what took place at Ape Canyon there around Mount St. Helens. But like I said, it was already taken care of. That place was already taken care of. So where was Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin in 1967 when they claimed they was going to Mount St. Helens, which had already been there, but they didn't go to Mount St. Helens? What they did was they ended up meeting John Green and them down there in the Bluff Creek area in 1967 at the end of August and the first week of September, because that'd be the exact same time that all of them was there at the same time. That all of them could be there at the same time, do all this filming when there ain't nobody around. That's why when we watch PG film, okay, people will sit there and say, well, you know, if this was filmed in on a Friday, you know, it was a Friday afternoon, where was all the trucks going in and out there? Where was people cutting trees down? Why would a Bigfoot be out in the open that long when there's people around that area cutting trees and everything else? So basically, when we look at this film, it was not filmed in October at all. It was actually filmed earlier, put it either in August and the first week of September. This is why a lot of people says, well, wait a minute, this is, you know, by the shadows and stuff and everything else, it had to be during this time of the year and not this time of the year, you know. But I wanted to make this video and point out that Roger Patterson has somebody else filming with him. Even in his book, if you read it, he always has somebody else doing filming. Well, we know that Rene Dahinden was filming the tracking dog film. So the person that could have been filming Roger Patterson in the Bluff Creek area may have been Rene Dahinden. Because when we watch the tracking dog film and the PG film, they have the same motions. You'll see the subject and they pans off to the left or pans off to the right. Same thing we see in the tracking dog film. And we know the tracking dog film was filmed by Rene Dahinden. Plus, as we watch the film, we could sit there and see that he's always filming Roger Patterson at ground level. He's not on horseback, because usually when you're on horseback, the horse is moving around and the film's not stabilized. You can't just keep the camera going back and forth like this. But he's always being filmed from the ground level. So he really wasn't on horseback. So basically, what I think happened is when John Green and Rene Dahinden went down there in the Bluff Creek area, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin decided to say, hey, let's go down there and meet up with them. And then we say we went to, let's tell people we're going to Mount St. Helens during this time. And then we're going to go down there and do this filming. So that's when they probably went down there and did this filming. And then when they came back to Yakima to play it off, they said they got a call from John Green, saying they found Bigfoot tracks there. So they went ahead and gone back because the film was already developed during that time, that prior time. And, they could have went back and says, hey, we filmed the Bigfoot that day when it was already filmed. The film was already developed and everything else, because when you start piecing all this information together, and then you find out that the original people always surrounds this film, is always the ones viewing the film first, being in the locations around this Bigfoot and everything else, just like John Green, Rene Dahinden, Roger Patterson, even when they went and viewed the film. Then we had Jim McLaren, a part of that pack, because when they claimed that they just filmed this Bigfoot, not only Roger Patterson was giving interviews out, Bob Gimlin giving interviews out on the same day they filmed it, but we also have evidence where Jim McLaren called Ivan Sanderson and told him about Roger Patterson filming a female Bigfoot the same night. Rene Dahinden making some calls and find out that Roger Patterson filmed Bigfoot, and then end up Rene Dahinden being from Canada. All of a sudden, a few hours later, he's also in the Bluff Creek area. Okay, and because remember, he took images on the 21st, which is on a Saturday. He took images at the filming location, and Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin was supposedly already gone, so when you fit all this together and stuff like that, we have people that surrounding this film is Roger Patterson, Rene Dahinden, Jim McLaren, and John Green. Just like when they first viewed the film, a lot of people speculate who was there, because a lot of people don't know who was there. Who was actually there when they first viewed the film at Al Diatley's house, Roger brother-in-law's house, is when Roger got to Al Diatley's house on that Sunday, okay, which I don't understand if he left on Saturday morning. They left in the middle of the night heading back to California, and they didn't ride there till Sunday morning. And then when they got there Sunday morning, who was already there? John Green, Rene Dahinden, and Jim McLaren at Al Diatley's house. They was there before Roger Patterson was. Just like Rene Dahinden, and Jim McLaren and them was there that morning in Bluff Creek area on Saturday morning, because there was Al Hodges' store. Okay, so, and they took picture. Rene Dahinden and them had Lyle Lovett. Excuse me if I pronounce that wrong, but he was there taking images that Saturday morning as well. The footprints that this supposedly Bigfoot left behind. But like I said, around that morning, we have Rene Dahinden in the Bluff Creek area at Al Hodges' stores at Willow Creek. But then he ends up at Roger's brother-in-law's house before Roger even showed up, and Roger and him was already gone, left that area. So like I said, who filmed the PG film and the way it's filmed and stuff, I would have to say Rene Dahinden was the one that filmed Roger Patterson on horseback, because the film only shows Roger Patterson. It does not show Bob Gimlin whatsoever. Bob Gimlin claimed he didn't use a camera. And by the time frames, when you place all this together and the information that they put out there and the interviews they give, pinpoints to everything just to these individuals. So the man that actually filmed the PG film, for me, by the evidence you see by the way it was filmed, who was filming it, who was in these locations at that time, would put actually Rene Dahinden filming the PG film, not Roger Patterson, because Roger Patterson's always in front of the camera, and especially not Bob Gimlin, because Bob Gimlin claimed, hey, he didn't film nothing because Roger had the camera with him all the time. So I wanted to make this video because there's a lot of speculation on who filmed this film. But as you see, there's a lot more to the story, and I'm not trying to drag this out or nothing, but the point of fact of it is, when you go through all this evidence, and you have all this evidence, and you start compiling it together, and you try to match up these stories, you line up these stories, and like, wait a minute, how did he get from point A to point B when this subject here was already heading to point B, you know? So when you start studying it, and the only way you could do is when you start piecing together, you'll find out the man that filmed the Roger Patterson film was Rene Dahinden. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and I'll be making more videos soon. Thank you.